Hi,
God.
Buff friends. Hi, Neil. I'm head programmer
Hello.
Kai Perrignon. It's April 13th, 10 a.m. ish my time, 6 p.m. ish, Neil, 5 p.m. ish your time, right?
Yeah, 509
5
PCT.
BCT. And we are both talking. This is The Trick, writer-director Neal Wynne. Neil, thank you for
Hello.
screening your film with us. And thank you for sitting down outside to talk to me for an interview today.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for having us. It is super exciting. Hopefully, I feel like there's like two or three random people I know who might be in the area at the time. So hopefully they're able to come through, you
If
know.
I hope
But
they
I would love to check out the festival in person someday.
if we keep surviving, you must come out because
Yeah, no, I
it'll
will.
work.
Yeah.
To start, you're working on a new feature right now. Can you tell me anything about it?
Yeah, so I'm making a new movie called I'm Sorry, Lily Torrance. It's a uh sort of a found footage horror film with a twist. I won't give the full thing, but basically it's about if a the tagline is kind of like, what if a murderer like made a movie about what they did, like a narrative movie. So it's kind of in this like it's in the found footage genre, but like it involves like somebody who's done a real crime, like recreating scenes of the crime they did in like a narrative format. So that's basically what it's about. Yeah, and it's got it's a spooky. It's I've fully committed to the horror genre in a way more so than the trick, I would say. So I'm excited about it. We just finished. We haven't finished shooting everything, but we shot like what I guess I would call principal photography. We kind of wrapped, and now we still owe some other things, but I'm excited.
Cool. Okay, so is it like as a viewer, is the idea that like we're like understanding things about this killer through what how he chooses to dramatize these things?
Yes, exactly. So it'd be kind of like if you watch the way I mean something that I've talked about. Um, it's normal when we read novels or whatever that are like first person, novels that are like written as a diary or whatever. Like Lolita was a big influence on this movie. But in movies, that's not as common of a thing because we don't, most movies are like sort of made in the third person. Like there's a director, omnipresent camera, there's found footage and stuff. But our movie's kind of like, what if we know the person making the movie, but it's still a normal narrative film, but what we know about them reflects all their choices. I mean, it'd be like if you watched my movie The Trick, but you knew that I had killed a bunch of people or whatever right before making it, it would reflect on your experience of watching the movie. So that's sort of like what this movie's exploring,
Mm.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely
Which is
sounds.
exciting because I haven't really heard of. I mean, there might be something. The most similar thing, and it was a part of an inspiration, because we were, uh, Eugene Kotlerenko's The Code. You've seen? Did you guys play that one last year? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like that. It's more traditional found footage in certain ways, but you also do meet the characters in that movie who are putting it together, who are editing it. So it's like there's some similarities to that film. You know.
Yeah. That's because I can it's definitely fascinating because I definitely have I've experienced like the what you're trying to evoke, but like not because the film is doing it on purpose, just because you once you learn some stuff
Yeah.
about directors, you can start applying that. Definitely usually in the case it's serial killers or sexual assaulters, that sort of thing.
Right. Well, and we do that. I mean, we do that naturally with movies, all sorts of movies we watch when we know stuff about the director. I mean, that's like a way to watch a film is like, you learn about the director or whatever, especially if they wrote it as well. But it's like using that sort of for a narrative and reason as well, you know.
The what's of Lily Torrance? Sorry, what was the first part of it?
I'm sorry, Lily Torrance, because the title's the perspective of this guy making it, because she's Lily Torrance is this girl who went missing like 20 years before, and you find out the filmmaker is sort of involved in her disappearance.
Oh, I should send you one of the short films for playing at Buff, actually, because I think you'd get a kick out of it. It's called "You Are Your Image and Your Image Is Mine," and it's
Mm,
about a guy.
sound,
It's about a guy who, like, he is. You can see the film is my friend was killed, and there is some public recording of it, and I'm making a movie about her. And over the course of
Wow.
the movie, you realize that the filmmaker character you never see, yeah, is not a nice man. So I thought it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
great.
yeah. You got to tell me that. Yeah, because I knew this would happen. Somebody's going to be making something quite similar, I'm sure,
But this
if it
is
has
9 minutes
not
long. You
happened
still got
already.
it's a different zone. It's 9 minutes
Yeah,
versus the feature. It's different.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I would love to see that. That sounds great.
I'll send it your way.
Oh, yeah,
Um, Okay, so speaking of another movie that you've worked on that's not The Trick. Okay, so I'm not my first experience with your work was Do Better years ago, which I remember thinking was very
yeah.
fascinating. And then I watched The Trick when you sent it to me. Thank you, and I loved it, and I was really grappling with it, and I wanted to like kind of get more into your head. So I watched Video Expert One, and
Oh, right.
to be honest with you, I was like completely baffled by it. So I guess my next question is like, can you tell me what the origins of the Video Expert company are? And then just also like tell me about Video Expert One as a project.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So that was like a me and some. I went to Boston University for film school, and I met a bunch of friends there who um, moved to Los Angeles with me, and uh, we didn't really know anybody when we got here, and then COVID happened like 6 months into living in LA. So we started having the idea of making a feature film, which is just a a short film compilation with some like loose narrative thread throughout all of it. Because it's just something that if you make a film that way, you can like shoot on weekends and you can have multiple like lots. I directed a good amount of it, but then some other Sabrina Greco, who's also my wife and who's the filmmaker, made this movie Lockjaw recently. She directed some of it, and my friend Patrick directed some of it, and but so we just kind of made it collectively together, and we had hosted our own DIY screenings of it in LA and New York at like the very begin. Like we kind of hit a sweet spot because we hosted those screenings like right when COVID was starting to end and like people were like really eager to do anything social or whatever. So we had some like pretty big screenings of it in New York, in LA, and that was kind of it. We just like we actually played randomly in London one other time too, by some guys who hit us up, called Double Wonderful. They put on cool stuff. And but yeah, that was basically the origin. We wanted to make sketches, but we thought it'd be more interesting to try and make a feature film rather than like put them out individually on YouTube. You know, so that was it.
Cool. I got it. When I logged in on Letterboxd, I had a few friends be like, come up to me if you guys and say Chad Beast to me multiple times. So definitely
Oh
like
yeah,
it's the name strikes a chord with that
yeah,
character.
yeah. Right. I also it was like that kind of stuff that those a lot of those jokes there. I feel like we're also peaking like that type of humor in the. I don't know. We always. I think we also were cultivating a style like I kind of like stuff that is extremely goofy, but like actually, earnestly felt, and I think the goal with the Chad Beast character was like he was supposed to be like a perfect guy, and it's all very ridiculous or whatever. But maybe you really feel something for his mission and stuff like that. And that was also that guy we found was just an amazing a find. This guy Ken, this great actor who plays Chad Beast. Uh, but yeah, but the movie resonated with people. Still people still kind of reach out sometimes randomly, and I have no idea how they even saw it. And it's like because it wasn't available for a long time. It was just like a Vimeo link that was private and stuff. Now it's like on YouTube publicly, but yeah, that's sort of how that started. But it was kind of our foray also into just meeting. It helped doing those screenings and making Video Expert One just helped us like make a lot of new friends in LA and New York and get integrated into the larger independent film community because we didn't really know anybody before that, basically. You know.
So what would you how would how what's your experience been like with the independent film community out there? Like, has it been since kind of cultivating those relationships with Video Expert One? Has it been nice? Has it been? Do you think it's a fruitful
In
zone?
LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's definitely like, especially at that time too, like I was saying, there was like this sort of fever for community and screenings. Like when we had, after that Video Expert One screening in LA, there was like a slew of like DIY short film screenings, and we made lots of friends there. Yeah, no, it's a really good community. We've made lots of films with all these people we've met, and I mean it's weird because it's Hollywood or whatever. But Hollywood, LA is also like in a weird transitional state because it's kind of like the industry is collapsing and everything's moving to London, and I don't know, movies are obviously just in a weird state right now. So I think, I don't know, we I'm from the East Coast. My wife and I are both from the East Coast, but we moved to LA because just, I don't know, we thought it'd be funny, I think, to live in LA, and it is kind of like to be reminded of all the classic movie stuff constantly. But I think there's a great independent film community flourishing in LA because of like kind of the decay and weirdness of the industry right now, you know. So I'm happy to be here, and I like LA still a lot. I've been here 6 years now.
6 years, damn. That's you. Yeah, you're basically a local, right? Is that how long does it take to become a local somewhere?
I don't know. I mean, people are weird about local stuff always everywhere, so I don't know. But I mean, well, I think also I do think LA though is like, you know, it has a history. There's a classic history of people coming to Hollywood and try and make it, so it's like it's always had. I mean, New York has that too, obviously, but like, New Yorkers can be really like nitpicky about like what makes a New Yorker, whereas I feel like people don't really talk about that with LA. It's like, what makes you, that's not like a thing. Like, when do you become a real Angelino? Because like there's so many things about it. I mean, I think uh I don't know. The industry presence though is there, and it does start to like haunt you a little bit, you know. Uh I don't know how that affects the work, but it's kind of always looming over there. So I don't know.
Well, there's a kind of a thread in the trick in kind of the background about this kind of moment for these characters being like a potential precipice for something, but like the next step is kind of unclear. But like it's like Aiden could blow up and like we could blow up, but what is blowing up in this context? I feel like that's something I was kind of resonating with in the movie.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of we're talking about collaboration a bit here. I talked about how, Video Expert One was like kind of a collective effort and just working through that. And you mentioned a little bit ago, your wife, Sabrina Greco, who directed Lockjaw recently, also
Yeah.
edited The Code, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and produced on the trick. So you clearly work very close together. And I was just like wondering, what's your collaborative process? Like you also shot Lockjaw, right?
Mhm.
So like, are you always bouncing ideas off each other? Was she deep in the trick zone with you? Like, can you talk about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been really, I think, a key to, I mean, making these micro budget feature films is really difficult. So if you have a partner who's in it, is obviously a massive help. But yeah, I mean, we do everything together, so it's like it's always majorly collaborative. She also, my new film, I'm sorry, Lily Torrance, she produced that as well, but also is a co-writer on it. So, and is going to co-edit with me. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we just work on all that stuff together. So, it's massively helpful to get stuff. Also, I think the good thing is like we learned a lot of lessons. Like I made the trick before Lockjaw, and I feel like it kind of helped. There's a lot of like things we learned through that whole process that I think helped with Lockjaw when the time came to like start to try and get into festivals and all these things. Like there's a lot of like pragmatic like things you learn. So I think that's also really useful. It's like the failures of the last film can inform the next one.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Great, thank you. And also, I guess kind of following up on that as well, just like in general, like you. you don't just direct. You talk about your editing, your cinematography. Like how does just like working in those other positions like inform your working relationship with those other collaborators on your other work? Like, do you feel like you're bringing in like, okay, I know what being a DP is like. I can just have a shorthand with my DP on the trick, for instance, or,
Yeah,
or vice
yeah.
versa. Yeah.
I like for sure. I think yeah, I mean I come from like a like I made movies all by myself for like when I was a kid and stuff, and I enjoy like all aspects of the process, and I'm like a I like the nitty-gritty technical things, like so I like get really interested in that. And I'm an editor, like my day job is editing and stuff, so I like edit all the time, and that's like uh really like I don't know, my kind of I sort of like post the best, like it's like my favorite part of the process, and so having that technical thing, I think it's also the only reason like we're able to make these movies is that we can do some of those roles, you know. But yeah, no, for cinematography for sure, I'm like really interested in the camera, so I like when I work with like Carlos, my cinematographer on the trick, like we've done lots of stuff together, and we kind of know what each other likes, and we both know that we like understand a certain level of technical stuff, so it's easier and makes things more fluid. But yeah, I don't think like I it would be I shot the Lockjaw, and that was a really great experience. I feel like I would have a hard time shooting anything like bigger budget, you know what I mean? Like I think that I cap out at a certain point, like with camera stuff or whatever. Because at a certain point, like being a professional cinematographer, like has all these other crazy things that you got to worry about. But I do like just like I like operating the camera a lot. So like when it's a smaller thing, I like doing that.
Mhm.
But yeah, that definitely helps make it more fluid to talk to all our various collaborators and stuff.
Great. Great. Um, okay, let's talk about the trick specifically now, kind of talking around it a little bit. Uh, I think that one of the things I found on rewatching the trick for prep for this was that the performances are all like people are at different levels, right? But it all feels very like in sync to me. Like everyone's in heightened kind of a different way. And I was especially like, struck by like Gregory Cohen as this like deeply melancholy but also menacing performance as a master. And I was just curious, like, what's your process like with the actors? Another moment I guess wanted to like think of in here, it was the bit early on where the Steve character is like, let me go full body, and that is
Yeah.
such a strange. Everything about that is very strange about how it's performed and how it's expressed, but it works. So, yeah. So just can you talk about your performance of the process of the act?
Yeah. I think a lot of it is just like 90% of it is like just casting, you know. The the Gregory was just like you know really amazing fine. Like I do really like super. I kind of like two things, you know. Like I like hyper minimalist like non-actor style performances, but I also like really big like thespian theatrical style stuff. So I think he kind of like represents like more of that side of it. And I think I just remember, yeah, he just like really could revel in like a kind of like evil, like almost Walt Disney style like performance. So a lot of it just had to do with casting, and then finding someone who is game, who just thinks it's really fun, like he I think he had a blast like playing that kind of like heightened like goofy evil, so I think that's like um a part of it. So you find, you just it's really just casting and finding people that are like that really just like are enthusiastic about this type of like performance it is and the type of character it is. Whereas like the interesting thing about Steve, which is played by my friend Jake Squires, is it's sort of the opposite of like he's a pretty like big like charismatic guy, and it was kind of like we want to do like less and like be really mellow, like working against what he normally does, which I think produces like a really interesting effect, Um, so I think, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of both. It's like playing against type, but also just finding someone who's perfect for the role.
It's yeah, I mean the casting it's interesting. I mean, because I feel like when people say casting is 90% of it, it is just like we got the right vibe. But it's interesting to talk about like, and we got Jake Squires, but then we're kind of flipping his vibe, flipping the energy of the actor.
Yeah, I also think casting. I don't know if this is as relevant for the trick, but it's definitely super relevant for my new movie. Is I don't know if other people view it this way, but I find for me personally, casting is almost casting against my own type because like I have a tendency to want maybe a more minimal style performance, but I don't know that that's always a good thing for well, first of all for movies in general, but also for like my own movies. So I try to cast people who are like, especially in this new movie, like extra theatrical and stuff, so that like we kind of counterbalance each other out or something. So I try to like that, or I don't know that I did that as much on the trick, but it's something I've thought about more recently now, where it's like casting somebody to like fill in the gaps where you feel like you have a weaker imagination or something like that. You know?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's like, yeah, that's really interesting. Just thinking about like what kind of collaboration is best balancing things out. That's really interesting. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Um, okay, next question is okay, the trick opens with Steve fucking around aimlessly with a green screen, and that green screen comes to take on like at least as I read, kind of a negative symbolic weight across the movie. But kind of in conversation with that, you as a director are using like chroma keying so powerfully in the movie. I think it's like so expressive and there's space for experimentation throughout. So can you just speak to your feelings on chroma keys in general and like how that came to become a central part of the trick?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, well, first of all, the first movies I ever made, like I have a VFX background. Like the first stuff I ever did was like After Effects, special effects style videos. Like I was really into like YouTube filmmakers who do like, I don't know, like video game like recreation stuff and like do like lightsaber effects. Like I kind of like that kind of stuff when I was a kid, and so that's how I got interested in filmmaking. So I've always kind of been interested in like VFX, and but yeah, I think the green screen, yeah, it becomes this kind of like weird motif. I don't know how many people like watch the movie and like perceive this, but the idea is that in that trip like style sequence like near the end is like maybe whether you perceive it or not, uh you can tell that it's like all shot on green screen stuff, which is like you're almost like, is this stuff they shot like in the beginning of the film, like which I thought was really interesting to me. But I also just love, I don't know, the green screen is an amazing tool, and like often on movies, on this new one I did too, it's like I'll shoot a bunch of assets just in case like I want to do some compositing stuff later. But that's definitely something we did on this movie. But um yeah, so I think I did want to try and see if like whether consciously or subconsciously you could get it in that it's like it feels like there's all this green screen stuff that you see at the top of the movie is like filtering in through the rest of the movie.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Well, and also I feel like metaphorically, like it's like for the Steve character who is sort of what's it called? I mean, I used aimlessly fucking around earlier, and like he's sort of aimless. There's sort of this like open potential in front of him, and it's like the green screen is both like potential for like doing lazy stuff and doing a lot of more not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, that's smart. That's like a metaphor for like a green, because like there's obviously this like thread in the movie that there's like a lack of imagination on his part, or his interior life is sort of like empty, and the green screen is kind of like that too. But it can be filled with stuff or whatever. But yeah, no, that's a good point. I guess it kind of works on that level as well, which I feel like, well, yeah, because in the narrative sense, we were sort of saying that because it's like he just shot that stuff sort of randomly, and he's like not really sure how he's even going to use it and stuff. So yeah.
And no, we're talking. You sound to me very, very like intentional about how you're thinking about your work. But the trick is about a guy who's not very intentional about that. Do you
Hmm.
was when you were writing the trick, was that something you were working through in your own kind of creative life? Was that like a more relatable zone to you then? More
Yeah, I
so?
think so. I mean, I think part of that also some of that stuff that the stuff that I feel like the movie is clearly about was definitely not that clear to me um in while I was writing it. It because I think I'm when I was doing the trick, I feel like I have a different approach to like writing stuff now, and I do like co-writing and stuff. So I feel like it's a little bit more deliberate in the script, whereas when I wrote this trick, it was a little bit more instinct based and discovery. But I do think with any movie, you kind of figure out what it's about sometimes later. Like it's not always clear. But that definitely happened with this on the edit, and I wanted to lean into it more, where it's like yeah, I think there was always about this like sort of aimlessness and like not knowing like what the point of what you're doing is. But um I think it was later when I realized it's like pinpointing this like concept of like empty aestheticism is kind of like this weird like metaphor for a lack of like imaginative interior life. But I think it all came from um I feel like I think I was kind of like going through and maybe like I was trying to refigure out like what I wanted to do with movies and stuff. So it maybe came from that place a little bit. And also the movie, I think the themes of the movie became clear as I sort of like it was almost like a self critique of the movie because I'm kind of like, why is this like what is the point of like him like hiring a guy just to like act spooky and shoot him on the green screen and it's like that's sort of like critiqued in the movie itself, where it's kind of like there's no like this is just an aesthetic idea. It doesn't have any like real meaning or whatever. And that's like sort of the problem with it, you know?
Mhm.
I guess, yeah, because he's kind of, he's like basically in the trick, he's sort of tortured by his own like, just like weird ideas, I guess, because he just shoots this thing at the end and it like ends up in this ruining his life or something,
Mhm. He's
you know?
tortured by his own weird ideas. Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting because we're talking about this character is like kind of lacking in interior life, right? But there is also reading the
Yes.
movie where like he's talking to the producer towards the beginning, right? And he's like, until she's like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Hell yeah, right?" And like there is a reading of just like he just had his ideas. He just likes this shit. And it's weird, and that's maybe that's all right. Maybe maybe none of this happens in the movie if the producer is like, "That's a bit funky and weird. That's kind of cool."
Yeah. Well, I also realized later, I didn't even realize this, talking about that first movie I made, which is like super experimental, just like when I was young, do better or whatever. I didn't even realize it at the time, but I think something happened to me when I made that movie that was like kind of made me make the trick, which is that in my first movie, there's like also like a weird guy named character named Rad, which the movie's kind of about, and like I just cast this non-actor, this guy TJ, who's really like was really fascinating to me and really really great, I think, in the movie, and that's like what I still think is like cool about the movie is his performance sometimes. But an interesting thing happened where after I showed him the movie, he seemed like he was like he asked me like am I a weird guy, like do you think I'm a weird guy, and I was like oh my, and I felt horrible. It was like it and I think it only dawned on me later that it was like sort of a similar thing, like that is sort of what the trick's about, kind of like is uh sometimes there's certain, especially when you're like working in like these indie like non-actor space like Lynchian stuff, like I don't know. Is there exploitation going on sometimes with the use of certain actors and stuff like that? I don't know that there. I don't. I don't have a strong opinion on that either way. But it's like a weird space to get into. And then like you make a movie about somebody, and then they see it on the screen, and you've put them in this like spooky context, and it like makes them reflect back on their own personality. So I realized later I was like, oh, that's why I made the trick, I guess, because that happened probably.
let's
If
so that's oh, go on.
no, that's all I had to say about that.
Well, it's just I think this tension topic is really fascinating because it's like well, what as like a as an artist as a filmmaker, right? Like you want to follow what you find interesting, right? Like so there is like inherently kind of a tension of bringing other people into the process and like an actor especially. And I was thinking about this with the trick as well with the master character of like acting is this weird kind of double talk, right? There is like I mean this is not like an original thought, but like you are performing something but you're doing it at the same time, right? So like if you're casting someone because their energy is appropriate for the project, but at the same, and so you're building that off of their real life energy, but then you're bringing it to a fictional context, and it's like there's like a double vision going on, you know?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Especially I think when you're working with um non-prof like people who are not actors in their daily life because because they don't have as much agency, because when you work, and a lot of this is like new stuff to me because the movie I just did is like the most of the cast was filled with like people who are more like act more seasoned actors and who are like really super invested and have their whole process and stuff, and they have more agency over their own characters. They have lots of ideas and stuff. Sometimes when you're working with non-actors, you're not it's not like sometimes it is like kind of like you're tricking them or whatever into like doing what you want, whatever, which can feel kind of odd, but I don't. On the flip side, though, there's lots of amazing non-actor performances because I think lots of people are just naturally good actors, and lots of people are just so charismatic naturally, and we want to see those people on screen and stuff. But it's just a weirder space to be in sometimes, and there's lots of examples of this, like in lots of movies that's constantly talked about. I think.
Well, I would also say like even when you're working with professional actors, right, there is still an element of like being a director is people managing and figuring out how to like get
Yeah.
someone in the right mood, right? So like you just I feel like the relationship between director and actor is to a certain extent like kind of inherently fraught with this fear of exploitation, right? Like
Yeah.
and it definitely is enhanced by these kind of like not exactly class differences we're talking about of like non-actor versus actor, but I guess experience in the performative space, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's definitely inherent in any relationship with an actor. It's just at least the in a more professional actors like will just have like some non actors might feel this way, but like or and I shouldn't say non actor. I just mean like first time actor, like someone street casted or whatever.
mhm.
They might not have like as many like you work with certain more seasoned actors and they'll be they have opinions on their own last take and whatever. They're like, no, I need to do it again, which is great. You want that collaborative style stuff, and certain street casts people might have that as well, but it's more just like you're just like you're just trying to get them in the right spot in the right shot and like let them do their thing,
Mhm.
but it's interesting.
Okay, speaking of like real pulling from real life, and kind of playing with that, the central location of the trick is this mostly empty hotel in a gorgeous mountainous town of Independence, California, which has a
Yeah,
very overlook hotel energy. And I'm not just saying that because Steve is wearing the Shining meme shirt at one point. Can you
yeah,
just
yeah.
talk about finding and working at this location, and also how early was The Shining in your mind about it?
Um, we found it. It was originally written. So the first script had a lot more locations, and the time the hotel kind of came later because it was supposed to be like a singular location, but it could have been sort of anything. It could have been like a desert compound, because essentially he just has to be brought. Even though the hotel obviously feels like such a big part of it now, it's like uh in a story perspective, it's just like this guy's kidnapped and brought somewhere remote, right? So then at one point it was more of like a compound style place, but then we didn't really find anything like that. So then I think Carlos, my cinematographer, stumbled upon this like hotel randomly that was like a good price, and obviously it looks like the Overlook Hotel, which is like I mean, so that's like how it came into being. And also I've always liked like remote like away shoots where you have to like travel with the people you're making with is like just because like when you're making these micro budget movies for like no money that I'm basically self funding majority of from like just work and stuff like that. It's like I want to like vacation out of it or something. But The Shining came up. I mean, The Shining's always at the forefront of my mind, I guess, because it's like I don't know. I mean, it is kind of just like my favorite movie, I guess, or it's the reason I wanted to make movies. Because I think that was the first movie I saw when I was a kid that I felt like movies could be. I don't know if I found movies that interesting like before that, you know. But that one felt like there was like more going on. There was like secrets or something. Like there's like which is like everyone talks about that with The Shining now, like all the Easter eggs and all that kind of stuff, which is some of it's maybe kind of corny or whatever. But as a kid, it really resonated with me because it felt like movies were like more serious than I thought or something. But yeah, so it was always on my mind. So obviously, when I saw the hotel thing, I was like excited by that idea too. You know, that it would be like kind of an overlook style place.
It is just it's interesting how much it plays is like central to the movie in my mind, and it just came across like naturally as like necessity. Uh,
Yeah,
but it really is. I
I
mean,
also think the shirt. What I was gonna say too about the shirt is that was just like what we knew we wanted. It like was the shirt that looked the best on him. I wasn't even like the reason he takes off this shirt like randomly in the middle of the thing is because I at a certain point I started to feel cringed out at myself that he's wearing this shirt. I'm like, that's kind of like a weird like kind of lame Easter egg thing. So I just need him to take it off at a certain point. But yeah, it just looked cool on him. But I do like that it's in there. You know, the like tongue in cheek reference. You know.
yeah, well, it's kind of like it. I'm not to say like keyed me in, but it definitely like it helped. I mean, I feel like it kind of was a clue of like, okay, we're me and the filmmakers are kind of on the same page about like what the energy of this space is almost,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know?
Yeah, I do. I think you're right. I think it totally helps like get people on that level. You know.
Mhm. Because the movie has a weird tone, and this is actually kind of my next question. And actually, this is a question for my fellow programmer and big the Trick fan, Heather Fraser. Uh, she noted that in your letterboxd review of the movie Room Temperature, the Dennis Cooper Zach Farley movie, you wrote, "Gonna make a letterbox list called Horror Light and add this and the trick to it." So, what
Yeah.
is Horror Light to you?
I think horror light um to me meant yeah. So when I saw that movie, and I sort of knew going in that it was probably going to be like this. It's like those my movie, that movie, maybe some of the Jane Schronberg movies are like this a little bit too, which is just like they're not really horror movies because they're not fully committing to the genre in the sense that there's like jump scares or they're not like it's not spectacle of dread the whole time. Like they're usually kind of experimental or an arty and stuff, but they use like horror aesthetics and there is a spooky element like in maybe in certain there are might maybe parts of it where you're kind of like, oh, is something actually spooky going to happen, but it's not. It's I think it's more just like art filmmakers who are interested in the genre of horror and the aesthetics of horror and incorporating it into their work. So that yeah. So I mean, there's probably other examples like that, but it's just something I've noticed in a couple other films. Yeah, because I love. I mean, my new movie is more of like a real horror movie, even though it does have like experimental like avant-garde style stuff going on in it. But I'm a Halloween fan, so it always just ends up in there. I feel like
It's a spooky world, you know. It's like things
it
get
is a spooky world. Yeah, no, and I don't know. And like I said, like The Shining, I don't think The Shining is a true horror movie, but in some ways it does have like this horror light energy because for a good amount of the film there isn't really like much big spooky stuff happening. I mean, there's like the shots of the blood and like the girls and stuff like that, but it is a bit of a slow burn. But I mean, so many horror movies are like slow burns. It's like really only like 20 minutes of true like spectacle content and then a lot of lead up, which I think is what's kind of cool about it as a genre, is like there's a lot of time to like do other stuff as you're sort of you keep the audience's attention because they're like waiting for the scares or whatever, and you can kind of do other stuff in the meantime.
There's like a knowledge of the audience that like it's going to be paid off at least theoretically, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's also just talk about Shining because like yeah, the first like while of the Shining is like it's more of a comedy. I would feel like it's just like look at these kind of assholes and like look at
Yeah,
this.
it's super funny the whole time, and so many horror movies too are like that, where it's they're all like, it's always very fun. I mean, all the best ones I feel like are pretty funny mostly.
hmm I feel you. I feel you. Okay, and speaking of a moment that is where and we're coming to the last stretch here, but speaking of a moment of the trick that I found both very funny and also very disturbing because I couldn't really wrap my head around it. I think there's a lot of stuff in the trick that like retains this kind of mystery about it. Towards the end is the moment where I think it's Steve. He covers the producer's eyes, right? I think under her glasses, kind of like
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, this is something I return to a lot because it's just a very disorienting gesture. And
Yes.
I'm very curious as to like what you were thinking what were you thinking with it? What's your read of that moment?
Yeah, so there's an interesting thing. One thing that was interesting to me about uh, that, and this was always present in the script. This was an early idea that I found interesting, was that I wanted to make a movie where like a dramatic conflict thing happens off screen and we just see the other side of it. Because that sort of happens like, the movie's obviously a little bit elliptical and the story isn't, it's always a little bit hazy, but essentially what happens is like they're kind of like drugged, or he takes drugs or something, and then some stuff like happens between them. It's implied that some stuff happens between them off screen that we don't see. That's like when he's in that trip thing or something. And then so we just see the other side where like she's really upset, which I thought would be interesting if it could be pulled off, where it's like kind of jarring, but it's like you're just locked into the like emotion. You don't need to know exactly what the specific conflict was, but there was enough like dread and like weird things happening that you kind of get that like it would come to a head or something. And then I think the movie, obviously there's like sort of this motif going on about like vision and like looking at, assessing things from afar. Like that's what the girl character is sort of talking about. It's like, what you can tell about a situation, but just by like looking at it, like, just by scrapping the surface. So I think like the eye covering has something to do with that, where it's like, just, eliminating the vision from it and just like being in the imagination. I think that it probably speaks to that for me,
No,
if that
I
makes
think
sense.
that totally makes sense. I think what you're saying if like you don't like I'm not understanding exactly what's happening, but I'm certainly feeling that something horrible or close to horrible has happened and they are working through it. So like it's definitely like that thing you talk about, just like the emotional wavelength is clear, even if the like plot, as it were, is not. I think that's like an interesting tension.
Yeah, where you follow like enough has happened where you kind of buy that like it would come to that there would, it would come to like a kind of also in like a sort of drug trippy style way. Not that I don't really necessarily like or want to think about the movie as like being like a trip film, but obviously it does have that a little bit going on. But uh so but when people are in those types of state, they get really paranoid and emotional about stuff that maybe isn't, they wouldn't normally in a sober state of mind. So I guess it justifies that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think I always like the idea of like a tactile gesture as being some type of solution for like getting really in your head and upset about something.
Um,
Like,
Okay, I think we got maybe two or three more questions here. So, and one of which is perhaps the most straightforward. I imagine you've been asked this a fair few times, but I'm going to ask it to you now. What is the trick?
what is the trick? It's a good question. Uh, I feel like I had an answer, but now I forget. Well, I think one thing that's funny to me is that I feel like the trick is uh that it maybe makes you feel the trick is that you feel maybe more interested in the movie and enticed by the movie to try and figure out what the trick is, you know.
It's a good hook.
Uh, but I guess the trick generally is just like whatever the master like does to like whatever he's like he obviously brings him here to like send him through some sort of experience to like understand something because he's like a magical actor being or whatever. But yeah, I do think that the trick is so it's many things. It's like the idea of just like it was a good hook, you know, to be also they say trick a lot. Like he's like it's they say it honestly like an obnoxious amount in the first like 20 minutes. They say trick the word trick a ton. But yeah, so I think the trick just speaks to like whatever trick is being played on them to like get them to actually like self-reflect in a real way. But also for us to get to self-reflect, you know, because we have to, you know, the I feel like in order to buy into the movie, you want to feel like you know there's something to understand there, and I think there certainly is, you know, but maybe by titling it that, you're also inviting everyone to wonder like, okay, this stuff isn't just all nonsense, like there's like a meaning to it, you know, and that's sort of the trick, I guess.
I really like that idea. It's like the title as a way to like sow productive uncertainty in the audience. That's cool.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that is cool. I like titles like that. I mean, I think that probably should be what a good title is, maybe, which is just that it's not net unless it's like one of those you know, obvious titles, like it's called like an object or something, which can be cool too. But otherwise, it'd be like, okay, well, why is it titled that? And
mhm,
maybe that will help you like engage with the movie, you
mhm.
know?
Yeah, I'm forgetting. This is the quote I think about all the time, but I'm forgetting who says it. It's a painter, but it's like they said a title is an invisible color, and I like that idea.
Oh yeah,
I
that's good.
also my reading of the title as well is I kind of read it as like faking it till you make it. I guess
Yeah,
I'm thinking a lot about the cross, which is on the poster as well, but like the idea of kind of
yeah,
building this LED cross without all the pieces, but just trying anyway. And then I think about
yeah,
that in terms of a lot of other stuff and filmmaking wise and otherwise. Um,
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, uh, yeah, I think you know, and the trick to all of it is like maybe if even if all of the stuff doesn't fully like lock together in like a traditional story sense, it's like the trick of it is if there's a emotional resonance there, there's like real feelings and stuff like that, that it should sort of, you know, start to align and, you know, and speak to something, even if it's like a product of the subconscious or whatever.
hell yeah, hell yeah. Um, okay, so kind of closing this out here. So we kind of already talked this a little bit, but I just kind of want to like just ask it more straightforwardly. You were talking about earlier how you were kind of thinking about performance when you're making your new movie, I Am Sorry, Lily Torrance, and I was just wondering if there are any other like lessons you took from working on The Trick and Lockjaw into this new movie that you were like explicitly thinking about.
I definitely like, um, I mean, the main lesson really is that I do, while I like, the sort of like trippy, you know, more instinct based style filmmaking that I feel like the trick represents. I guess I am like just interested in trying to like lock into like something that I feel like is like going to be more understandable to more people, you know? I mean, like you know, I mean, I don't know. Like I think in the same way that I'm saying like it's a challenge, I think it's a challenge to my own instincts to cast certain types of people that I feel like will do kind of the opposite of like what my natural instincts would be. I think it's in the same way it's interesting to be like, okay, well, I have all these interesting um idea, or like, you know, I have all the sort of these abstractions and like interesting visual ideas and stuff that I like want to like work into a movie somehow. So it's like the challenge is like, okay, can you like come up with that in a commercial way or something, you know? I'm
Mhm.
kind of going I want to go Hollywood mode. I want to become a hack. so I can make Batman. That's my dream, to make Batman.
If you made
So
Batman, it'd be awesome.
no, yeah. Well, the thing about it is, what's cool is I think Batman goes public domain in about 10 years or something. Because the first comic, um, I think it came out in like first Batman's first appearance, I think was like 1939 or something like that. So it's like there is, yeah. So I definitely want to make Batman once that releases. But maybe I could make it with Warner Bros. But no, I don't know. But like, um, one thing that also was really separate from that, completely separate, would be um I got interested in doing something that's like more found footagey and stuff because I wanted to both the Trick and Lockjaw, I think, are like we had a really low budget, but we still tried to make like more of a traditional looking movie. In some regards, like there's experimental things to both of them, but they operate kind of like a normal movie. Whereas like I wanted to with this new movie make something that like is better because it's like a micro budget, which is like sort of the premise of found footage films, because like in my new movie, basically what's happening is you're watching, y- you know, it's a movie that we made for like 50, $60,000, but it's in the storytelling. It's also it's supposed to be a movie that's made for 50, $60,000. So it's like there's no compromising there, which I find appealing to me because it's like it's less it's always sucks when you're kind of like, oh, like, if we just had that little extra cash we could have done it this way a little bit, and so that's what I like about the found footageness, and that was sort of the approach to writing this new film is like what's something that is better because it's low budget.
Hmm. Hmm. It's like
Yeah,
bringing like the distance, closing distance between like conception and execution. That's
yeah,
okay.
exactly, yeah, which I mean, but the thing is, like, at the same time there's lots of amazing micro budget movies that are probably better that they're low budget, just because it like, so I think sometimes what can happen is like, uh, you know, a filmmaker makes a scrappy movie and then maybe they get a bunch of money and then it's worse because their like ideas are, maybe their ideas are coming out too good or something. I don't know.
Well,
So, but
there is something to be said of like the restrictions forcing out something, right? Into
yeah, exactly. You start to make, you have to just get the movie done at a certain point. So maybe it helps come with more interesting solutions and more interesting, because it's like you don't want to just make a generic movie for
hmm.
sure.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, all right. My final question is just, is there anything else you wish I asked you?
Um, I'm trying to think. I don't know. I feel like we kind of covered most of it. I'm trying to think. Um, what did we not talk about? I don't think so. But yeah, I'm interested to hear what the reactions are. I'll be watching. I'll be reading every letterbox review. I'm one of those people. So I'm excited to see them, good and bad. The thing is, I think it's cool. You make a movie, and if people want to have people put any thought into writing something about your film at all, like, they an academic voice or funny whatever is really a gift, because it's like it feels like you made a real movie, even if they don't like it, because they've like engaged with it with their brain, which is
Mhm.
cool. So
I
I hope that I look forward to reading those.
I'm a filmmaker. I put out a micro budget horror movie a few years ago, and when I started getting like 1-star reviews from people I didn't know on Letterboxd, I was like, I've made it. We've done it. It's escaped.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, it's because I think that's a lesson we've learned. Uh, both it's both a good and bad thing. But the weird thing about movies is the budget literally doesn't matter. Like everybody forgets that it's not like no movie gets rated on a scale. It's not like you watch a micro budget movie and you're like, oh, it's maybe people try to do that intellectually a little bit where they're like, oh, like, well, they only had this amount of money and it was pretty good, so I'm giving it a higher rating or something. But I feel like people don't actually watch movies that way. They kind of just like, and I find that very exciting when it's like someone's like, oh yeah, I liked The Trick better than this like $10 million movie, but this $100 million movie was better than The Trick this year. You know what I mean? When people's like, and all the budgets like don't matter. You know, it's like,
It all
you
gets
know.
equalized
So
out.
I that's exciting. I think for me.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's definitely the vibe of the fest of Buff is like you got the really, really underground stuff next to some slightly less like, micro budget stuff. And by the end of the festival, people are just being like, yep, everything's on the same plane. Everything's worthy, you know?
Yeah. No, I know, and it's cool. I mean, and I mean, it's also it's a proof that because I think movies in general are probably like a lot of them are just the budgets are bloated, you know. And I feel like when you go to these fests, it's proof that like they could probably make some of these movies a little bit cheaper, and maybe that would help the industry or something. I don't know, but
Can
who
I tell you
knows?
my utopian ideal of the film industry really quickly?
Yes,
All right. It's all regional. Nothing costs more than $5 million, and it's all lottery based, and everyone rents equipment from centralized hubs.
right from the state. Yeah, I mean that would be
Or
good.
the
I mean,
state
like
or city limits, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think yeah, that would be a utopia. I mean, it's our how is Australian film funding? Is it how is it?
Well, to be honest with you, I am not one who applies for the funding. I'm like I'm already given up on that zone for my stuff. But my understanding of people who are getting the funding is that it's what you expect. It's basically like the government has a very specific idea of what is an appropriate movie to fund, and it generally seems to be something that doesn't travel very well. I think the Australian government
Yeah,
tends to fund like movies that will play at like the one big art house cinema chain for like 70-year-olds for 3 weeks. That's one of their favorite kinds of movies.
yeah.
And every once in a while, they get a horror movie, but they feel weird about horror movies now. Um, and like
Because
one
because have you
recently,
you get you gave up because you just felt it's not really like it's just too hard to get that type of funding for the stuff you're interested in, basically.
yeah, basically, like the stuff I'm interested in is really, really experimental, and
Yeah,
there's just no way it would just the amount of compromise that would need to happen to make it work. I might as well just not do it. So that's kind of where I'm at
they don't
personally.
have they don't have arts grants for like video art at all, or it's fully just narrative feature film, or
Yeah,
or
they do have arts. They do have some video arts grants. Like there definitely is like a small amount of like there are people who are getting the government money to make the really like whatever they want out there stuff. But in terms
yeah,
of
yeah,
like the like most of the
yeah,
money is narrative stuff that's pretty middle brow, I would say. Yeah.
right, right,
And also
yeah,
they're cutting funding left and right as they are in the States as well, right? So
yeah.
yeah.
No, I know. Well, maybe someday,
Someday.
someday.
That's the dream. Well, just got to keep making cool independent movies. If people
Yeah,
are like,
yeah. No,
yeah.
I think there's hope. There's a lot of doom, but I think there's hope. Uh, hopefully, yeah, it seems like young people they want movies. So I think they're things are gonna change probably in a big way, but I don't know. I feel like there's reason to be hopeful.
Do you feel
You
like
know.
there's the phoenix coming out of the ashes of the Hollywood machine?
Yeah, I think so a little bit. I mean, I think stuff needs to probably still get a little bit worse or something. Like I think it needs to collapse a little bit even further. But once that happens, I do think uh, there will be an interest. I mean, especially because I don't know the the theatrical model might be interesting to people. I mean, in the same way, like Zoomers love like vinyl and stuff and all that kind of. They everybody wants to do something in person or whatever. So maybe movies will stay alive for that reason. It would be great if they. I feel like we need to knock out TV, and then we would be really cooking. Because I feel like TV and then social media. If those two, or sorry, movies and social media were your two options, that would be better. But I feel like we got TV in there too, which sometimes it's good. But
People would rather watch 9 hours of like a mediocre TV show sometimes they go out and see like push themselves one little bit to see an interesting movie. It's a shame.
I know, yeah, yeah. But if that's why it's like kind of a barrier, because I do think people, I don't know, and lots of you show people who maybe aren't like cinephile type people like a more out there movie and they can really get down with it too so I don't know.
I teach film studies at university, and which can be depressing. But a few years ago, we were showing some experimental films, and a student said a thing that I'd seen online a few times, which is that they were suggesting that experimental films were inherently classist because they're like lower class people can't understand them.
Right.
And we had to have a whole conversation about this, about like, I think you can just show, I often think experimental films are more accessible because you can show someone something and they can be like gut instinct, that was cool or not, and like, I think that's kind of a
Yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
thing.
exactly. Well, I think because that's kind of a weird because that comes from like kind of a classist attitude to assume that like the masses can't enjoy and get down with some crazy ass movie, I mean, but so I you got to just keep trying.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, and that's what you guys are doing, so that's great. And thanks so much for including me, and I'm excited to hear how it goes.
Dude, thanks so much for chatting with me. Thanks so much for screening with us. It's gonna be awesome.
Yes.
Um, and yeah,
Yeah, no, I know. I'm excited. But yeah, so keep me posted about all the other stuff, and I'm looking forward. So on the website we'll like say the specific date and stuff in case like there's like I think there's like one guy I know who might be in Australia at that time, so I might send
yes,
him there.
it's going to be. I can even tell you right now what day it's going to be on. It's going to be on. I think it's going to be on the Saturday. Let me see.
Yeah,
Um, is it in the? Yep, Saturday, 7:10. So yeah,
nice,
let your
nice.
Melbourne friend know. They'll see the beautiful the trick.
Yep,
It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be an
yes,
interesting
great.
location as well. So it's gonna be rad.
Yeah,
All right.
great.
Cheers, dude. Thanks so much
Cool.
for talking to me. It was a
Thank you so
pleasure.
much. Oh, and send me, or I could probably just look it up. I'm interested. You said you made that film. I'm interested. I would love to watch it
Oh,
if it's available somewhere.
yeah, it's on the old Vimeo and the old YouTube for free. I'll send you a link. You
Oh
might
yeah,
might find it interesting.
yeah. Send me a. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, dude.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much. I really